Hey, Dr. Nancy Zaire, the sales whisperer. And as you may have noticed, my cohort Hirsch is not here. When he gets his camera fixed, then hopefully he'll join us. But this is another edition of Know and Sell Pointers. And today we're specifically going to talk about selling styles. So I hope that you fastened your seatbelt because this is going to be a great episode to help you think about maybe consider, maybe even work with different selling styles. Because, yes, just like there are four personality styles, or what I call buying styles, there are also four selling styles. Now, the reason I tend to correlate them together is because most people sell the way they buy. So, quick review about the four buying styles. I give them numbers. These numbers were created after 35 years of research in which we looked at how quickly people made decisions, how many contacts they needed before they could make up their mind. And initially, the numbers were 1, 3, 5, and 7. This was before digital marketing. And now, because there are a number of touch points that kind of take place off scene where we are not aware of the fact that somebody may have looked at our website, read a post on social media, or had some other contact. This is the reason I've adjusted the numbers to 2, 4, 6, and 8. However, the principle remains the same. That number 2 buyer is very fast. They make up their mind in only 1 or 2 touch points. Think about the number 2 seller. This is that transactional person who wants to get the job done today, immediately. Hence, they too are interested in just 1, at most 2 touch points before they go forward. And what comes to mind is one of my clients some years ago, very strong number 2 selling style. Now, her buying style is a bit more of the number 4. In other words, she cares more about people, friendships, relationships. But as a seller, when she's got her seller hat on, and I put my seller hat on today, that red color is fire and, excitement and energy. And so hence, that when she was in a selling situation, it was today or forget it. I crossed the person off the list and I never contact them again. When she began to learn about the likability system and the 4 different styles, she began to realize that she needed to follow up with people, and she wasn't doing that. She had, like I said, written them off the list. When she contacted some of her prospects just one more time, she made 2 sales immediately, made over $10,000 because they were high ticket situations. And she couldn't thank me enough for helping her recognize the difference between her selling style and someone's buying style. I see that Hirsch has now joined us. I'm going to add him to the stage. Hi, welcome, Hirsch.
Hello, welcome.
Yes.
Apologies.
I said you had some camera problems, but I'm glad
Yes.
they've been resolved.
I have a new computer, and this is my first time being on camera today since I set up the computer this morning. So naturally, everything else was going so swimmingly. I assumed that the camera would be set up and ready and everything else. We get spoiled.
Yes, we do get spoiled.
We get spoiled here.
Yeah, so, and this is very apropos. I was just talking about the number 2 buying and selling style. These are people that are, feel a sense of urgency, quickness. They take action fast and so forth. And so, yes, we live in an age where we expect things to happen immediately. And when they don't, it's very frustrating.
Yes. Look at that.
But you actually the lighting looks good and the definition looks good. So I'm going over the different selling styles. Just a reminder that we're talking today about selling styles. And
Yes.
I mentioned that people tend to sell the way they buy. So we started with the number 2 style. I now want to go to the number 4 style. The number 4 style is the person who takes 2 or 3 touch points, contacts before they make up their mind. Why do I call them a number 4? It's because they need one additional touch point after they've said yes. Within 24 hours, they get cold feet. They have buyer's remorse. They think about, was this a good choice, or what, did I act too quickly? See, they are fast at making up their minds, but then they have doubt. And
Doubt.
yes, they have a lot of doubt. This is the person who's very reflective. Now, as a seller, this person is very much wanting to connect with people. And as a result, they hesitate to ask for a sale because of the fact they don't want to be out of rapport. And when someone says no, they have a feeling that, ooh, I did something wrong. It's a personal rejection. So since I've been doing a lot of talking, I'm going to toss the ball in your direction. And, tell us what you think of that situation of the person who gets buyer's remorse, as well as the seller who doesn't want to ask.
Well, I think that for the somewhat uninitiated, fascinating. This is a fascinating topic, because what you're really looking at is the fact that every buyer, every customer, let's say that we approach, is different from the person on the last call, possibly. And we'll get into that in a moment. But we would think, well, I told them all the stuff. We had this wonderful conversation. They seemed very, very happy. And now what is wrong with me, or what is wrong with them, that they're now getting cold feet? So we're either questioning our process, or we're questioning our skill, or we're questioning their judgment, and we are lost. As opposed to saying, oh, I recognize this personality. This person's a 4. They're going to need another piece of information right now. And that would calm us down and make the exchange so much more organic, because the buyer then feels, without analyzing it too much, oh, this makes me feel good. This makes me feel comfortable. They speak my language. I can work with this person.
I typically share a story, and I'll do it now really quickly, about one of my clients. I call her June. That's not her real name, but she was prospecting during COVID on Instagram, and she connected with someone who seemed like they hit it off, and so much so, because they had an exchange of messages back and forth for a while, that June sent a proposal. Now, I'm not clear whether the client actually, or the prospect, asked for it, or whether June, in her eagerness, because the number 2 came out, in her eagerness to have a deal, whether that proposal was sent under that kind of situation. All I know is that she sent the proposal, and crickets. It went silent. Prospect didn't respond. So she waited a day or two. She nudged her. Did you get the proposal? And again, nothing, no response. Well, as you can imagine, Hirsch, this was very upsetting to her, because she got ghosted, right? And we happened to have a coaching call at the end of that week. So she'd made 2 or 3 contacts already without a response. And I pointed out to June that the prospect was a strong number 4 buyer. This is the person, like you said, thinks about it, reflects, needs the friendship. They need to know you care. So we drafted a text that was all about, I'm concerned about our friendship. It doesn't matter whether we do business or not. Let's be friends. 5 minutes passed, and there was a text message back saying, yes. And the relationship returned. It was restored. And eventually they did do business together. So that's the value of understanding that you're dealing with a number 4. And again, it happened to be number 2 selling style that interacted with the number 4 in a way that turned the number 4 off.
Yeah. And the difference would be that, let's say the number 4 needed that relationship building connection. A number 8, which we'll get to, would possibly have wanted more detail or more information.
Yes,
So you
yes.
can't just say the same thing to both people. And it's like, and we know, we're familiar with sales systems, some sales systems that I've subscribed to with some success, but it was a journey to find the right kind of mindset for how I wanted to approach people. Would say, well, you do this after 2 days, this after 3 days, this after 4 days, this after 5 days, with no regard for who it is, just assuming that all your clients are going to be the same. Can you speak to, Nancy, the question of how different or similar should our clients be?
If I'm hearing your question correctly, let me check to make sure I understood. Are you asking whether our clients should fall within a certain category as opposed to be spread over all 4 buying styles?
Yeah, I'm saying that. Yeah.
Okay, so my answer to that is yes. Of the 4 buying styles, usually 70% of the population, so chances are you, the viewer, the listener, you are in that 70%, in which there are at least 2 different styles that you're very comfortable in. One of them tends to be your social style. It's the way you initially greet people and you chat with them, etc. And the other is your decision making, or what I call the business style. And that business style is the one that's going to make the decision, not the social style. Hence, it's very important for you to know that. But going back to your question about the fact that who should be your ideal client, in essence, 2 of those 4 styles, not all of them. And you see, that's again the mistake. You mentioned various sales systems. They're trying to sell to everybody.
Right.
Well, when you sell to everybody, often you get nobody, or you're playing what's called the numbers game. You're looking for a needle in the haystack. That person who suddenly is looking for what you are offering, that 3%, because 97% aren't ready to buy today, and you came upon that 3% and hip hooray, you made the sale. But that's not typical. So how about I go on, because I'm looking at the time. I want to go on to the 6 and the 8 so people know who those are as sellers. So again, the number 6 buyer is a person who's very methodical, very systemized, they're organized, they have a structure they follow. This is the person who needs testimonials. They need a proposal, actually, because they want to make sure they've got all the details, that everything follows, it's in order. And so the number 6 seller has a system, and they don't deviate from it. Now, this is really good for people selling insurance or certain products like that, because they're drilled on how to use the system and how to follow it, etc. But they don't know how to deviate from the system. And so when they come across, I'm going to use the number 8 because this is again, one of my clients was a strong 6. He sold insurance and he came across a number 8 prospect. Well, our 8 buyer is into information. They're into return on investment. They want to know value over time. And our number 6 seller did not know how to answer those questions because they weren't part of the script. They weren't part of the system that had been laid out for him at the time he was making his first presentation. And so, again, with some coaching, he went back to his number 8. And guess what? He did eventually make the sale because the number 8 buyer takes 8 or more touch points. They need data, they need research, they need statistics, they need science in order to justify what they're doing. So different selling styles, different buying styles. Again, if I looked at the number 8 seller, who is into education and learning and all that knowledge, what happens for me as a number 4 buyer, they give me too much information. They just keep dropping stuff on me. And I'm like, Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm just running through my mind with all the examples in the past of sending too much info, sending too little, hone it down. We've about you know, some of my contacts who work with very, very high ticket clients and are like, well, they're not interested in this, they're not interested in that. And of course, that's another area entirely, which is, the economic strata and the types within those places. So, I mean, if moment, let's jump to the eight a little bit. But in fairness to the eight, we probably will have to take a little more time next week.
Well, and that's only fair because you're right. This is the person who needs information, solid data. They don't like hearsay. Our number 6 buyer, remember I said they want a proposal, they want references and testimonials. They want to know about other people's experiences. Hence, hearsay, which is what the number 8 would call it. People's testimonials are very meaningful to our number 6 buyer. But the number 8 discounts them because they're not scientifically based. They're subjective and not objective because our number 8 is very logical.
Yeah. Yeah. And so logic, impulse, and it's like I remember being a kid, and my mom's hairdresser was into astrology and the zodiac, and he would read all of our charts and do all these things, and he would make very clear that we each have every sign in our horoscope zodiac. So it's like you're this with this rising, and you got this and you got that, but this is this thing. Same thing with the personality types, and I'm so glad that Nancy is able to kind of break this down for us. But we probably are a little short on time for this week's know and sell pointers because my computer was I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared.
It's all good. It's just the way our higher power intended. So, folks, looks like we're going to have another week of selling styles. And I especially want to get into the fact that people shift. I mentioned a couple examples where people were a number 4 initially in their social style, but as soon as a sale was sniffed out, they became the number 2. Well, let's talk about that next week. Shifting styles, because this can be problematic, again, if you're not reading your buyer's style. So with that said, it's Dr. Nancy Zare, Sales Whisperer.
And Hirsch Repun, the message therapist.
To your sales success.